Alright, what's up guys? Magus here. Today we've got a video on routine and schedule for trading. Most of this information is going to be pretty straightforward. However, I think that there might be a couple details that stick out, and I hope this helps out some people out there. Before I get into what my routine and schedule actually looks like, I'm going to go ahead and make the point that there isn't much of one nowadays. Back in 2019 and in 2020, even most of 2020 at least, I was able to have a pretty scripted uh, approach for when I actually traded and when I didn't. I was able to, for quite some time, wake up a little bit after the London Open and scalp the London session into the first couple hours of the New York session, and then I could call it for the day, and I was able to consistently um, make my money that way. But now that we've gotten to the point where we're getting deeper into a bull market, the hours and the hours to which I trade and how long I trade for have changed a lot. Um, I'm not actively scalping as much as I used to because I've gone much more towards a swing trader approach for a lot of these things. However, I still do intraday trade. It's just I went from taking anywhere from 15 to 50 trades in a day to where I realistically am taking only single digit trades nowadays. I'm taking 3 or 4 trades a day, probably, maybe 10 tops nowadays. And that's just because I realized I didn't need to trade the way that I used to anymore. Um, that skill set that I build up of intraday trading will always be useful and be something I can fall back on. And I know that this environment that we're in is not going to last forever. So it'll be nice that I can fall back on that. But for the time being, I'm actively managing far less and just letting the trend carry my worth, which is something that I think people should really focus in on if they're not already doing so. There isn't really a need to try to outperform the market, right? When the market was going sideways in 2019, you you could realistically outperform the market because it wasn't doing much. But nowadays, the market's giving so much opportunity, you don't need to outperform it anymore. So don't try. Just let the market carry you. So getting right into it, the first obvious thing that I'm going to point out, which is obvious to me, might not be to everyone else. I don't really eat um, when I'm trading. So like if it was back in the London New York session that I used to do, that's waking up pretty early for myself, and I would wake up and all I consume is caffeine and water for the first half of the day when I was gonna grind through that. And nowadays, if I'm doing a more odd schedule where sometimes I'm gonna trade the Asian session, or I might even trade just the middle of the night, later into the Asian session before the London Open, I really try not to be eating when I'm doing that. Now, this might, be my body type and be different for somebody else, but I feel as if it slows me down a lot when I'm consuming food. Even when I'm eating healthier food, it just slows me down. The water and caffeine combination really gets me going and gets the cylinders turning. So, you know, we'll start off with the obvious thing. I abuse a lot of caffeine to keep going. But let's say, it's the start of a fresh day and we're gonna sit down in our PC and what are we gonna do first? Well, before I do anything, right, I'm not gonna check social media, I'm not gonna check my Discord messages, my email, I'm not gonna check anything like that. I'm immediately just gonna go to the chart and review review my chart, review my bias, make sure that nothing dramatic has changed within the technicals. This has nothing to do with FA, nothing to do with news, anything like that. We'll get to that later. I really am just I'm gonna get right into the chart. I'm gonna make sure that everything is more or less what it was the day before, and it's been like that for the past couple months, right? It's what is it? February 12th today, and it's I've been able to maintain a pretty much identical bias day in day out for the past several months, which is number go up. It's pretty simple. So after I'm gonna, reaffirm my macro bias and make sure everything is good, I'm gonna log into exchanges and I'm gonna check on my positions. I'm gonna make sure that everything is fine, that my risk is fine, my stops are fine, any resting orders are fine. I'm gonna make sure that if I'm paying funding that it's not too ridiculous. Side note, I've really moved far away from trading the perpetuals. If I'm gonna get in and get out on an intraday basis, I'm gonna always trade the perp. But most of my trading nowadays, or at least most of the trading that has real money behind it, has been on futures because I don't want to pay funding. I want to be able to comfortably sit in the position for weeks or months at a time and just know that as the trade moves in my favor and the risk of being stopped or liquidated or something becomes less and less of a risk, I it becomes I don't want to call it a free trade, but it becomes a far less risky trade. And I'm not paying to keep the position open. So just something to make note of. After I check all my positions and stuff, I'm going to go through and check on the news. Um, I'm not really going to make decisions off of the news. It's just more so an entertainment thing for me and to see how it might be affecting other people's um, way of looking at things and opinions on such. So it's not something I'm going to act on, but I know others will act on it. So therefore, I want to pay attention to it. Um, Now that I have, really covered over, I've woken up, I've really covered over all the bigger picture things. I've established macro bias and made sure all my positions are good. I've checked in on the news and stuff. It comes the intraday, what can I do to make money within the next, 8 hours of trading, right? So I'm gonna sit down and I'm going to get to my intraday setups. I'm going to follow the system, and basically it's, establish bias and context, right? Which, you can carry over that macro bias into the intraday. That should affect your bias, right? So obviously we're in a bull market. You want to favor bullish setups, and when you're taking intraday shorts, which there's nothing wrong with. People are going to tell you that that's foolish, and quite frankly, I think they're the fools because I do quite well intraday shorting in bull markets. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just that your mindset has to be different, right? That you can be much more comfortable holding a long for a longer period of time than you can a short, right? When you hammer into a short, you want to get in and get out. Get in, make your fucking money, and get out. Um, as long as you have that mindset for shorting, there's nothing wrong with it. So before I'm actually going to execute anything though, right, I'm going to hop into my intraday charts. I'm going to redraw any lines that need to be drawn, and that is a perfect segue into the idea that get lines that auto draw themselves. It's one less thing for you to have to do. If you don't have to hop on and redraw your lines every day or readjust them because they just draw themselves, it's a real great quality of life change there for your charting. So I really like auto drawn lines. Don't get me wrong, I do draw my own lines to an extent, but like on this chart, for instance, that you see in front of you, all those are auto drawn. I don't have to draw any of those lines, and they give me great information without any effort on my part. The effort was creating the chart originally, and now it's just I've used the same chart for probably almost 2 years now, and it has served me well. So now that we have determined our bias and what type of trades I might want to take, before I actually get into identifying setups, I want to determine position sizing because position sizing changes a lot. And since I trade contracts that use position sizing in terms of coins, right? So my position sizing isn't, if I'm long one Bitcoin, my position size isn't $48,000, it's one Bitcoin. So because of that, I do think it's important to determine position sizing on a daily basis. So that's what I do. Um, and then now that I know what my different position sizes are that I might use, whether that's um, initial position sizing or my adds and subtractions, I'm accounting for all these things. Now that I know my size, I can go and find my setups. I can hunt for my setups. And something that I see people do a lot when I work with people closely is that a lot of people you want to sit down and have a setup in front of you, and sometimes you're going to be lucky and have that, but most of the time, you really shouldn't be expect to be able to sit down and have a setup right in front of you ready to go. So with that comes the patience of determining where the setup could come in and waiting for it to form. Because a lot of the times, like if you're a divergence trader, for instance, you need to wait for the div to start to form. And a lot of times you can identify the setup before it's even formed the divergence, that this is a potential divergence, and I'm going to watch it and see for it to play out. And kind of goes to I don't watch too many markets, right? For intraday trading, I'm pretty much just trading Bitcoin and ETH, and it's been that way for me for quite some time now. So I'll trade those, and I'm just going to be patient and wait for my setups to come. And yeah, I mean, it's really simple. You wait for the setup to come, you follow your system and execute it. These are the things that everyone understands, but I want to highlight something where most people are probably going to slack is the recording of your systems and your execution, right? So when you take that trade, you should log a lot of the information about it, right? What type of setup was it? What was your position sizing? What was your P&L? What went right for you? What went wrong for you? Most important is going to be the what went right for you, what went wrong for you. If you're not doing this, unless you're some sort of savant, you're going to fail. I don't know how I ever could have improved my intraday trading without being that nerd that actually logged every trade I took and then went through it, because that's the next part that I was going to put in. It's not that you just record your execution, that you have to review it. So I would review every single trade I made that day at the end of the day. Um, it's it sounds simple and easy, but it's really not, because we're inherently lazy creatures. So, for example, um, an issue I used to have was that around the time when I would be trying to finish up my trading session a year ago would be the time when my roommate would be getting off of work and he would want to play video games with me. So I would be tempted to drop everything and just hop on the game with him, and that's, you know, not good. I really want to stress that when um when that thing comes to distract you and to make you maybe I won't review my trades today. Um, I really think you need to just in that instance, I would just try to tell my roommate, like, give me 10 minutes and I'll be ready. I gotta finish reviewing, or I gotta start reviewing. Um, that a little thing like that is really what's gonna separate people from succeeding long term. And just wanted to put in the little caveat, right, that in this market environment, this type of mentality that I'm talking about isn't really going to matter, because trying to be smart and stuff really isn't the way right now. But what the reason why I'm teaching these ideas is because this won't last forever, right? This easy money, this up only won't last forever. I'm gonna take advantage of it as long as I can. And I'm going to keep with this bias probably until I'm proven wrong. But when I'm proven wrong, I'm going to be able to adapt back to how I used to trade. And a lot of people are building up really bad habits right now. So I want to express these ideas because what I'm talking about is what's going to help you survive long term. That's what's going to help you when the trend changes and the environment changes, that you can adapt and either still make money or just really most importantly not lose. Because a lot of people, I read things on Twitter, and I think a lot of these people are going to get just crushed in the future when the trend does change. Um, so I'm gonna end it there on the routine part. There's not some magical thing. It's kind of why I wanted to make this, is just to show that there is no magical um you know approach that's gonna help you. It's just really what mattered was the legwork that was put in. I can't tell you how many hundreds, if not potentially thousands of hours, probably more like thousands of hours that I put into um, my trading approach, which ironically got kind of thrown out the door in a lot of ways because of the strength of this trend that we have here. So uh, to end it, I wanted to make a point of what I do in between, right? Because there isn't always a trade. So since I primarily trade ETH and Bitcoin, and a lot of my intraday trades aren't on alts, um, I take the time to scan alts for not intraday plays, but for swing trades. So I spend a lot of time nowadays going through alts and just watching for swing trades. And I also spend a lot of time learning about things that could be added to my system. Now, I want to make the point with that it's really easy to have too much information, to know too much, and to have too many things going into your system. And you really want to make sure that if you're learning something or you're adding it to your system, that it's really going to serve a beneficial purpose and not just be an extra distraction in your decision making. Um, apart from scanning altcoins and apart from continuing to learn things, um, I've been working on my coding a lot and making my own indicators and even, trying to get better at my data analysis with Python. I'm still pretty bad at it, but I am making progress every month. So these are the kind of things that I think you should work on. And then the most important thing I want to say before we close this video out is find times to get off the computer. Now, I am very hypocritical in the sense that I don't do a good job of doing this nowadays. Back a year or two ago, I used to be really good about getting away from the computer and making sure I hit the gym, making sure went outside. So I'm going to stress that this is really actually one of the best times to just get off the computer. Once you're in position, ideally longs on, strong alts, DeFi, maybe ETH, show my bags. Um, Once you're in position and you're comfy, you're in profit, you have stops in profit, maybe you're not at risk of liquidation or anything like that. You, I really suggest that we strive to get outside more, get some sunlight, get some exercise. And I know it's pretty difficult nowadays with the corona and stuff to have a social life, but even try to do that if you can. So yeah, that's gonna be the end of the rambling rant for me today. But I'm going to make an effort to record more videos. And yeah, thanks everybody for watching this. I really do appreciate it.